Flight AF723 from Paris to Ouagadougou was nearly full. Sophie Lemaire, a flight attendant with 15 years of experience, was completing final tasks before takeoff. First class was unusually busy, crowded with European businessmen heading to an international economic summit. The mood was tense. One high-profile passenger had missed his connecting flight, and the airline had scrambled to find him a seat, except first class was already full. "Miss Lemaire," came the voice of the cabin chief over the intercom. "We have a delicate issue. Mr. de Marais, the vice president of Globex Industries, needs a seat in first class. Can you ask someone to move to business class in exchange for compensation?" Sophie sighed. These situations always brought tension. She scanned the first-class cabin, trying to spot someone who might agree. Her eyes settled on a black man wearing a simple beige shirt and dark pants, quietly reading a book. Unlike the others in expensive suits, he appeared less important. Sophie approached him with her usual professional smile. "Excuse me, sir," she said, polite yet firm. "We have a priority passenger who must sit in first class. Would you consider moving to business class? The airline will provide compensation and a travel voucher." The man looked up from his book, an essay on the African economy, his calm eyes meeting hers. His French was perfect, with a slight Burkina accent. "Is there a problem with me being here?" he asked gently. Sophie stiffened slightly. "No, sir, not at all. It's simply a matter of priority." She noticed a few nearby passengers glance their way. The man nodded, carefully marked his page, placed the book in a worn but elegant leather bag, and stood. "I will change my seat." Sophie blinked. That was easier than expected. "Thank you for your understanding." "Sir," she said, checking the passenger manifest. "Mr. Traoré?" The man nodded slightly and followed her. She led him to a window seat in business class. "Here is your new seat, Mr. Traoré. I'll bring your compensation documents during the flight." "That won't be necessary," he replied with a calm smile. "But I would appreciate a cup of tea after takeoff." Sophie nodded and returned to first class, where she seated Mr. de Marais, a red-faced businessman in his 50s, who immediately started complaining about delays. The plane took off without issue. First class filled with the buzz of business conversations. Everything seemed normal again. 2 hours later, while serving meals in business class, Sophie was approached by her colleague, Amina, a young hostess from Senegal. Her eyes were wide. "Sophie, do you know who that man is, the one you moved from first class?" "Mr. Traoré?" Sophie asked. Amina's expression turned serious. "That's Ibrahim Traoré, the president of Burkina Faso." Sophie froze. "No, that can't be. A president would travel with security, an entourage. He's known for discreet travel, especially for diplomatic missions," Amina explained. "Air control in Ouagadougou. Just informed the captain a delegation will receive him on arrival." Sophie's tray trembled in her hands. She had just asked a head of state to give up his first-class seat for a French executive. "He didn't even say who he was," Sophie whispered, stunned. "He just agreed. No protest." "That's his way," Amina said softly. "He's admired for being humble and simple." Shame settled over Sophie like a heavy weight. She realized she had judged the president based solely on appearance. "I need to apologize," she said, throat tight. "Wait," Amina cautioned. "We've been told to keep his presence quiet. It's a sensitive trip." Sophie returned to her duties, her mind in turmoil. Each time she saw President Traoré's calm demeanor, her face burned with regret. In the crew area, she confided in Amina. "I assumed things about him just because of how he looked." "We all make mistakes," Amina replied gently. "What matters is what we do afterward." Sophie nodded, but she knew this moment would leave a lasting mark. Later, while turbulence rocked the cabin gently, Sophie found herself near President Traoré's seat. "Can I offer you anything, sir?" she asked, hesitant, unsure how to acknowledge what she now knew. He looked up with a peaceful smile. "No, thank you. Everything is perfect." Sophie paused, then whispered, "I want to apologize for earlier. I was wrong." President Traoré regarded her with thoughtful eyes. "You were doing your job, miss. Don't worry." "No," Sophie insisted. "I made a judgment based on appearance." He closed his book. "Do you know why I agreed to change seats without protest?" She shook her head. "Seats, classes, titles. They're only symbols. They don't define true worth. What matters is how we treat others and live by our values." Tears welled in Sophie's eyes. "I misjudged you." "We all do sometimes," he said kindly. "What's important is recognizing it and growing." In my country, I try to lead by example. Power isn't a privilege, it's a responsibility. Real leadership doesn't need to shine. The plane jolted slightly. Sophie steadied herself. Come, sit for a moment, he offered, gesturing to the seat beside him. She hesitated, then sat down. I don't know what to say. He smiled warmly. Who I am doesn't matter. What matters is remembering that we are all human beings deserving of dignity and respect. I could have insisted on staying in first class, but would that have changed who I am or why I'm here? He turned to the window. Besides, the view is better from here. Sophie followed his gaze. The sky outside was ablaze with orange and purple, the sun setting above a blanket of clouds. I'll never forget this, she whispered, referring to both the view and the lesson. We all learn each day, he said. Even me. The seatbelt sign came on. Sophie returned to her duties, changed in ways she couldn't fully express. A quiet transformation had begun. As the plane neared Ouagadougou, whispers passed through the crew. News of the president's identity had slowly spread. After speaking with the captain, Sophie made a decision. She returned to first class and approached Mr. Demary. Sir, she began with calm authority, there is a very important person in business class. We'd like to move him to first class for landing. Would you be willing to switch? Who is it? Demary asked. The president of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré. The man blinked in surprise. Of course, I'll move at once. Sophie noted the irony. The same man who had displaced the president was now rushing to offer his seat. She walked back to President Traoré. Mr. President, she said respectfully, we would be honored if you accepted your original seat in first class for landing. He looked at her with a small smile. Ah, so you've discovered who I am. Yes, sir, and I'm truly sorry. He raised a hand. As I said, it's all right. I'm very comfortable here. But this isn't about comfort, Sophie said. It's about the respect you deserve. He paused, then nodded. Very well, but only because I see it matters to you. As he returned to first class, Sophie noticed how others looked at him, not with awe, but with deep respect, sensing his quiet strength. Just before landing, she came to him one final time. Mr. President, this meeting changed how I see the world. Thank you for teaching me about humility. He smiled. We are all teachers and students. Miss Lemaire, as long as our hearts stay open to life's lessons. The plane began its descent. Through the window, the glowing lights of Ouagadougou shimmered like stars scattered across the ground. My country is not rich in wealth, he said softly, but we are rich in dignity and spirit. I hope you'll come see it one day. I would be honored, Sophie replied, her voice full of sincerity. When the plane landed, Ibrahim Traoré was quietly received by a small group. No ceremony, no grand show, just deep, honest respect for a man of character. That evening in her hotel room, Sophie wrote in her journal, Today I embarrassed a president and learned humility. Appearances can lie. True greatness often comes quietly, in simple ways. From now on, I'll look deeper than titles or clothes. I'll try to see the value in every soul I meet. Months later, a letter arrived inviting her to join a cultural exchange between French Airlines and Burkina Faso. At the bottom was a short handwritten note. Real encounters change us. Welcome to Burkina Faso. Sophie smiled. The change in her was real. What had started as a mistake had become one of the most meaningful lessons of her life.